Hello and welcome to a not so awesome review, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make kind of a more doll-ish type hair for your Marvel Legend female figures, and specifically female figures because they have the longer hair and the soft plastic on it, although you can move it around, does get in the way from posing a lot and just limits the articulation in the head. So, yeah, I was like sitting here thinking that sucks, and I wanted to try and just like kind of make that better. So I, looked around the internet and found this way of kind of making doll hair, which I'm guessing is pretty well known for people who do this on dolls, but for people who do action figures like me, well, it's new news. So I figured I'd share it with you guys. I've already actually taken off, those are fireworks, I've already taken off the hair of the figure I'm going to be using, which is Phoenix. I already tried it with a different kind of material just to see how it would look, and I did not like it at all, so I'm doing it with the original way that I kind of learned how to do it. I do have my prototype here, which is a Black Widow. Now, this isn't perfect, it doesn't look great, the hair color is definitely off, but it was more or less just a proof of concept. It does work, but the reason it doesn't look great is just because of the fact that I wouldn't say I skipped a step, but I skipped an optional step, and definitely did not, end up with the greatest looking. It looks really poofy, basically, is what I'm going for. Or not I was going for when I did it, but yeah, I mean, if you wet the hair and let it down, it does go down and look a lot nicer, but for the most part, it doesn't look great. But I think with what I've done here, and what I'm going to show you guys, will add it to make it look a lot better. This one I will probably, take off the hair and fix it at some point. Another side note is, this won't really work with aftermarket heads you get on eBay, like casted heads and stuff, because those are casted as one giant piece of plastic. So unless you want to sit there and grind off all of the hair, which you can, I don't know how hard it would be, but you can if you don't want to damage your original figure. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend doing it on that. This was really a pain to get off. It took me a good long while because there's actually two indents where the hair goes in that was stuck, and you can see the glue I used for the original version I tried to do of this is still on there. It doesn't really mess up the figure all too much. The glue is kind of a pain to get off, but it is doable, and if I really wanted to, I could get the original hair back on. I would just have to kind of touch up a little bit on the paint on the side where it came off a little bit because of the glue, and get some more of this glue off to make it fit perfectly again, but it wouldn't be too hard to get the original hair back on. But yeah, the most that this thing hindered was really looking up, and you could look to the left and the right with it on. I would have showed you guys, but like I said, I kind of already started. I wanted to do this video with Spider-Woman, but that hair did not want to come off, so maybe in the future I'll do that one. But for now, let's get into this. I've talked long enough. It's been 3 minutes. So what we're going to need is some 100%, what is this, vinyl? Acrylic. Why would it be vinyl? 100% acrylic yarn. These are really cheap. 315 yards for $3 at Walmart. Not bad. Some glue, PVC glue. I got Gorilla Wood glue here. You can use regular Elmer's glue. I do not recommend Mod Podge because it doesn't dry as fast. I don't know, I had issues with it. That's what I used for the Black Widow, and it kind of kept falling apart when I peeled it off of the plastic, which brings me to the next thing is you're going to need a piece of plastic. You can just get it off of your Marvel Legends box, assuming you throw the boxes away. If not, just find something like that, because that the glue doesn't stick on it great, so you can peel it off once it's dried. So anything where you can peel glue off of a surface would be good, and you don't mind putting glue on and possibly damaging. That's why I recommend the plastic over there. I'm using this Loctite for vinyl, fabric, and plastic. And that's kind of the reason why getting it off of the head is a little difficult, because this glue is pretty strong. It's not the strongest. It takes, I think, 2 hours to cure fully. But even then, even fabric to fabric, it's rippable. I've done it just to see. And next up, scissors. You're going to want a brush or something to kind of apply the glue. Something to apply the Loctite onto the head. I'm using pencil. And something for the yarn to tie onto. So yeah. Okay, so first thing I want to do is take some of the yarn off of the giant roll of yarn. I do recommend you take a lot of it for the purposes of the video. I'm just going to stop right about here. It's not too much, not too little. And I'm just going to set that aside. I have the yarn here. And just pick out a length that you kind of want the hair to be. You can cut it down to size once it's on the figure, so don't worry too much about that. Get your scissors and start cutting equal pieces of that. You can see I got about maybe 2 or 3 of these in that one pull I got there. And I'm by no means an expert in this, by the way. I should probably say in the beginning, do at your own risk. Obviously, everything you see as a DIY, you should do at your own risk. But, you know, it's something fun. It's something that adds... I don't know. I think in the end, it will look good. You can see here, I got about 3 pieces. One of them's a little bit shorter, but it doesn't really matter. Next up, you're going to get whatever you want. It doesn't have to be this stir stick. I just happen to have these from a different project left over, so I'd figure I'd use it for this. A pencil would work fine. So get the string and do a knot where you loop the 2 ends into itself and it ties on there. You're going to want to do that for all of the pieces, and I would do that right now, but just for the purpose of the video, going to skip that step right now. And this is the annoying part. I've seen people brush the yarn out and make it kind of what we need it to be. I tried brushing it myself. It didn't really work out as I wanted it, and it kind of felt like I was wasting a lot of the yarn doing it. I mean, I do have a whole bunch left over. 364 yards is a lot, but I don't know. I felt like I was losing more yarn than I was keeping, so my strategy is just to unravel the yarn like that. Each one has 2 ends. You unravel it, it becomes 2 more ends, and then you unravel it 1 more time on each one to make it kind of 4, and they will keep wanting to turn back on each other. It can get a little, you know, messy because it gets tangly and stuff, but for the most part it is simple. It's just really time consuming undoing all of these. But yeah, see, that's what I mean. If you go too fast, it just wrinkles everywhere and it gets annoying. But I don't know. Like I said, I tried doing it with the brush, and for me it was a pretty big fail. So this is basically the best way I can say to do it. And then I do just get my fingers and just kind of run it down the thing to try and make it a little bit better. You can see on the bottom here that it does get more poofy. You could go the extra step and try and undo the last of the of these and try and unravel it to make it more. But here's the thing. When you do that, the yarn actually gets a lot weaker and it starts to fall apart a lot easier. Not to mention that in the next step, it's kind of just going to unify those pieces anyway in more or less the same shape. So to me, it doesn't really matter. I don't know. I just haven't done it. I've tried it, but it didn't work out. So that's why I'm skipping that. And yeah, just really just go in there, undo them. Okay, so after doing a few of those, you end up with something looking like this. There's about 3 of them done here. It is really wrinkly. It is really curly, I should say, not wrinkly. And you could do it there if you just wanted to have that kind of look. I don't, and for most of the figures you're not gonna really have that look. You can even tell it's already like kind of turned back on itself. But it is possible. You could also, instead of what I'm about to show you, run it underwater or try and straighten it out that way. Easiest way to straighten it out is probably the most obvious thing, which I didn't show in the list of things you need because you don't need it, but it'll definitely help. Hair straightener. This is my sister's old hair straightener that I guess she didn't need anymore. You can tell it is definitely used. But yeah, this one actually has a temperature thing. I don't know about straighteners, but I think it is cool that it has like a little temperature gauge. It tells you when it's going up. I have it set to 120. I would not go above 150 because that's when it actually started to burn, just by leaving it there. I mean, it'll burn if you leave it there regardless, but burning faster is what I should say. So it's at about 96. It's almost at 100, so I'm just gonna take it, run it, and pull, and just do that a few times. You can see it's already getting a little bit nicer, a little bit thinner. There's pieces of it that are still curled in it. You know, you can undo them and make them straight. I don't think I want to though, because Phoenix's hair is kind of crazy, I should say. You know, it's not perfectly straight, but it does look more braided than straight than anything. But yeah, you end up with something like this, and then the next part you would want to do here is cut at a length. I usually do about halfway through so I can get 2 of these done. And sorry if I'm moving out of the frame. I definitely need to fix the setup for doing these kind of videos so the camera isn't next to me, and just sitting above me would be a lot better. But yeah, I'm gonna undo some of these, straighten it a little bit more, and then I will get on to the next step. Okay, so I got most of the curling out of it. There is still a few pieces that curled back up near the bottom, but it's not really that big of a deal to me, and I did go over it with the straightener a few more times. On that note, don't be embarrassed to ask to borrow one, though. If you plan on doing this with a lot of figures, I would recommend just picking one up, because, you know, when you run the straightener through it, sometimes the strands come out, and if you're not careful, not paying attention, then you're going to leave a strand on there and it will burn. And I don't want you guys to burn like your sisters, your mothers, your girlfriends, wives, or anybody's hair straightener because of this. So that's just a heads up. You can get them for about $10 shipped on Amazon. But anyways, moving on to the next step. Sorry for the cut, I had to find the scissors. Next step, just find a good like midway point and get it as straight as possible, and just cut through the yarn. And then you end up, well, I guess I missed one, but you end up with something like this, which will be your hair. So we get the plastic. As you can see, I've already pre-done to here. Basically, really straightforward. Get your glue. Run just a line of glue if it's not dried and covering the cap, you know? Now you don't want to use that much. I put a little bit too much on there, but definitely, you know, doing it with the camera here is not easy, but my advice, do a little bit. Don't do that big of a layer, especially on the bottom, because the bottom is going to take the longest to dry out of the bottom and the top halves of it. So get the hair, or yarn I should say, it's not hair yet, but it will be, and just kind of put it on there. You can see some pieces came off. You know, if you want to try and put them back on, if the glue hasn't gone everywhere, you can definitely do so. I like to put it on and like just try and spread it out, though it is difficult because, like you just saw, it kind of wants to stick to you and come up. Then just get some of the excess glue and kind of brush it on. This brush definitely isn't the best. It's seen better days. If you can find something that will be resistant to glue, different material for a brush, definitely look into it. If not, just have sacrificial brush ready for it. I definitely put too much glue on this one, but this is just so you guys can get the idea of how to do this. Kind of just have it all stick on there. Get some more glue on the end over here. And if pieces fall off after you glued it on, as long as like the majority of it is sticking together, it's not that big of a deal, unless like it was a really specific size you were going for. So don't worry too much about that. So I got it like that, and I'm just gonna run my finger over it a little bit to help spread it a little bit more. And there you go. This one's actually a little bit too much to the right. You want them to try at least have them all touching. That way when you lift it up off of the plastic, it's all good. Which we are going to try and do, I think, right now. I think these are both nice and dried. So let's actually go for the longer one. Just like, I like lifting up from the bottom and kind of trying to get a good amount off. I can definitely feel the bottom is still definitely not dry. You can even see some of the white still there. It does dry mostly clear if you don't put too much on it, which I think I did right there, but the main thing is cut the excess off. This I want to be really careful with. I'm not going to cut more of it at the moment, but basically once it's dry, you can cut this a little bit shorter if you want. Right here it's a pretty good length. Right here you can see I did glue an excess amount, a good maybe 1/4 of an inch, if not a little bit more. What you can do is just cut half of it so that you don't have a giant dry piece. So I'm going to wait for this to dry a little bit more and move on to the next step. Okay, so as you can see here, I did trim up some of the pieces to make them a little bit shorter. I could probably make it a little bit shorter, but since it's just the bottom part of the hair, it doesn't matter as much. As we get closer to the middle, which her hairline kind of, well, not the hairline, but the part where her hair parts is more or less in the middle of her face, going off of the wig, not the wig, off of her original hair, splits off basically in the middle. So what we're going to want to do here is, you know, make more of this stuff. It's going to take a while, obviously, but we're going to do our first layer in the back right here, glue it on with the Loctite, and then do one kind of going down here around the side again. Find a way to work around, because she does have molded hair on here on the sides, so find a way to do that on there. Obviously every figure is different, but for the Phoenix figure, just, you know, maybe glue it up there and we'll be fine. Glue around basically up until we get a nice circle up here, which I'll take pictures once I get to it. And then in the middle, we'll glue it in one more time and then kind of fold the hair back and forward, which is when we're going to want to make the, basically the nicest, most perfect cut we can, so that the glue doesn't show too much. It's one issue I have with the other one I did, but hopefully it won't be noticeable, especially if you're doing this for ACBA stuff. I don't think anyone will notice. So what we want to do here to glue it on is, I'm using a pencil, like I said, for the Loctite, just because it's easier for, well, it's not, I mean, it's easier to apply, but it's, I don't have like an actual tool to apply it with. I don't know if there is an official tool for it. I would imagine there's something, but basically we open the cap. The stuff does smell a little bit. It doesn't last that long, but it's really not something you want to be breathing on a constant basis, so a heads up on that. Not good for your health. The first part of it, I'm just going to wipe it off, because I don't think that's actually that great, since it's been sitting there since I put the cap on. Kind of just squeeze some of this out, get this, and then just apply a line of it on top of the glue that's already on here. And then just kind of, well, my hand's getting a little bit stuck on there. Just find kind of the center of where you want to put it. You can, you know, obviously hold it up to it and kind of predetermine where you're going to put it, and just apply on there. Push it down a little bit. And there we have the first strands of the hair. I'm going to go through this, apply more and more, and then we'll come back with the finished product. So one quick tip, when you're applying this, definitely go over the line that you put in, because if you glue it directly onto the same line you just did, you're just going to layer it and it's going to come out a lot more poofier than what you wanted to. So that's just a quick tip. As you can see, I kind of had this one cut sideways to go over right where the molding is. Another tip, which I wish I thought of, honestly, is maybe get some tape and cover your character's face, because my hands are covered in glue right now, and I'm getting a little bit of glue on Phoenix's face, which I'm going to have to peel off, and it's going to be kind of a pain. I did it earlier, but it is possible to take it off. It's just really annoying because it sticks really good, and since I'm using wood glue, it's resistant to water. It's not impossible to get off, but it's not the easiest thing either. Could be worse, so it is doable. Just a quick tip for that. As you can see, I am going around here. Don't mind the kind of indents in the head there. And again, sorry for kind of getting out of frame. Just glue into it if you have to. And yeah, basically what I'm going to do here is probably apply one more layer here. Going to do one for the back, one for the side, and then go two up one more. Maybe one more in the back depending on how it looks. And then one on each end, closer to that hairline right here, and then I will show you what it looks like. Alright, so I'm back here with the finished product, and I did take some pictures that you guys should be seeing on the screen right now of kind of how I filled in the gaps. If I had recorded the entire thing, it probably would be like 2 hours of video to go through. Really quick, I'm going to interrupt myself here. I'm like editing the video, and I forgot to mention, you might want to put something like a bag over the figure once you're done with either a string, or like I used a rubber band, just so you can have the hair basically stay down and look more natural. It just helps it form itself after being cut and stuff. And again, sorry about the bad angle with the camera. I'm like editing this and I'm like, oh man, that is horrible. I did just clear off my desk, so that will look better. But anyways, let's get back to the video. Because it did take a while to finish it. I'll get into some tips in a second here, but you can see the hair, you know, it came out pretty good. One thing I can't help, and this happens with all these, there's definitely got to be a way to hide it better. I'm just, you know, practice makes perfect. I'm sure every iteration will come out better. Is the glue marks right here. You can see it's definitely not super pretty, but for the most part, I'm thinking if you're going to be taking pictures with your figure and stuff like that, that the top of their head probably won't be the thing you're showing the most. I would not recommend going over it with paint, because you will not match the paint color. In case anyone's thinking it, I haven't done it, but I can just imagine that won't work out. And as for thinning another piece of hair and kind of putting it up there, I really don't think it'll look as natural. So the best advice I can give is maybe try and only put glue on the bottom half of the last layer and hope that it comes out looking good. The problem with that can be, you know, won't stick as strong as this. I mean, I'm not doing it too hard, but you know, that's pretty good for what it is. Another thing is her hair is definitely longer than it should be. I haven't gone around to like cutting it perfectly or anything. You can see some strands are definitely shorter than others. I'll probably cut it to around that length, but you're definitely going to get like some falling off, and the reason is because we didn't thin, or at least I didn't thin the hair, I should say, the yarn all the way to where it's natural length. Basically, you can like I have it right here, the yarn like this, you can keep going and eventually you'll end up with something around that length where my finger ends, and it's pretty short. At the same time, it is pretty long considering they're just 6-inch figures, so it's not too bad, and it does make it a lot thinner. But I wanted the longer hair, and I, you know, didn't want to test out sitting here with like combing it. I did do it with another figure, which I'll show in a second, and that took me even longer than it took to make this figure. So keep that in mind. As for the articulation, she can look up perfectly fine. Basically, we can rotate her head all the way around without really any problems. I definitely found that you can kind of have the hair, it will stick a little bit going out if you want to, so that's pretty cool. You can just mess with it and get different cool shots with it. I'll have some pictures at the end of this video. I like it. It's not something I'll do to every figure I have that has hair that isn't movable, and I may buy a second Phoenix just because I like the character. And I kind of want to make a Dark Phoenix, but I don't really know yet. But, you know, if it's something you like, you know, go for it. It's pretty easy. It's pretty cheap. I would recommend you start on a cheap figure just so you can get in your practice, or a second head. Like I said, casted heads probably won't work out as good unless you can grind out all of the hair, cut it off or something. Which, I don't know if that would be easier than, you know, going through having to heat this up and pulling it out. I mean, that was really, really difficult. I'm not gonna lie. Even using a blow dryer over the heater made it so it worked. And I'm not talking about this figure. I did it with another figure, which I'll show you right now. It worked, but it was so hot that it was really hard to touch, and I actually screwed up the head a little bit. By screwed up, I mean it pulled off some of the plastic from the actual head, which is hidden behind the hair. You can see here I did do Jessica Drew, Spider-Woman. I cut the hair a little bit. It's still not perfect, but you know, it's not bad. I think the only problem I have with it is that I should probably add one more layer going to the right, because I feel like it doesn't come out so naturally. You can see here when with the black hair, it does hide the glue marks a lot better. In the back it's a little bit longer. Definitely when you're cutting the hair, try to go at maybe at an angle or something to make it look more natural. If you just cut it straight, it'll look really flat and like somebody just got a bad haircut or something. And yeah, it's not bad. I mean, now she can turn her head all the way around. If you remember, this figure really had bad hair. They basically came out on the shoulders, came out in the back, and made it really almost impossible to get like a natural pose any other direction but looking forward. Now we can kind of tilt the head and stuff, move around the hair. Like I said, I do think I should add one more layer because it does look a little bit off, but it's not that bad. My advice, if you're going to be doing this, is definitely when you're doing at least this part where you're tying it on here, if you're going to be thinning it out to its thinnest, especially, just fill this up as much as you can and then go at it with the comb. It's going to take forever. You're going to feel like you're taking a lot off. Definitely make it short. This is way too long if you want to thin it, because you're going to be getting rid of more than half of this. So make your cuts a lot shorter, and it will take less time, but it will still take a very long time. And when you're done, it's going to end up with a very little amount. Definitely use a flat iron. I want to say you could probably get away with ironing it if you spread it out on the table, get the iron and go like that. It is a type of material, what was it, nylon, if I'm remembering correctly, and just as long as you put it on a low setting, you should be good. When it flattens out, you can see the difference. Like here it is not really flattened out too much, and here it is thinned and flattened, and it looks a lot more natural. This one wasn't thinned, and you can see the thickness is a little bit heavier. It's not too bad, but you can definitely see the strands a lot more on Phoenix than you can on Spider-Woman. But yeah, that's just my advice on that, is to definitely cut it short and just go at it and make definitely more than what you think you need, because you will need it. Don't go over with the glue. When I showed you guys doing it, I think I went a little bit too over with the glue, and it actually worked out a lot easier to put the thing, and then kind of hold it down and just dab it with my finger around, so that, I don't know, just make it as thin as possible. Definitely wait for it to dry so it doesn't fall apart. That's all stuff I basically learned while doing this, and yeah, I'll leave some pictures here at the end. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and leave them down below. I'll try to do a written tutorial on my website eventually. and I'll post a link to that in the bottom whenever that is up. I'll post a link to the Instagram if you guys want to check out the pictures in a little bit better quality. And aside from that, I do have other Marvel Legend type of mods and customs coming up pretty soon, along with more comic book stuff like always. So if you enjoyed it, check back for more, and I will see you guys later. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.